The Australian Workers' Union says the steel industry is in crisis, and if interest rates aren't cut further, more jobs will go.
Steel workers from across the country will meet in Melbourne this morning. Paul Howes is the National Secretary of the AWU and he joins us now in the studio. Good morning. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Why attack the RBA in this way?
Well, the big issue, crisis facing manufacturing and steel in particular, is the value of the Australian dollar. And the most important government instrumentality that can take action on the value of the dollar is the RBA. The RBA, by cutting interest rates, can put downward pressure on the dollar. And if we don't have downward pressure on the dollar soon, we're going to continue to see massive job losses right across manufacturing, but particularly in steel. And if you don't manufacture steel, you can't have a value-adding manufacturing industry in this country. And we think it's important that the RBA is held to account. Most economists, most people in business have been wanting a rate cut all year. Most have been predicting a rate cut all year, but yet the RBA continues to sit on its hands.
But the RBA board argues quite firmly, as does the Governor Glenn Stevens, that the official cash rate is where it should be.
Well, the official cash rate sits well above comparable economies right across the globe.
Is their advice wrong?
If you look at North America, you look at Europe, you've got interest rates near on zero in those jurisdictions. Of course, they're dealing with their own monetary crisis in those regions. But that means that Australia becomes a huge target for foreign investment of currency. So that all these Forex traders right across the globe are taking their money out of US dollars, out of euros, and putting them into Australian dollars, also Swiss francs and Canadian dollars at the same time. That's created this situation where you have a currency in Australia at the moment which bears no resemblance to the state of our economy. And our currency, sitting where it is, well above parity, and there's predictions it could be well above parity for a decade, means that manufacturing, tourism, hospitality, services, we're even seeing banks at the moment, can't compete and can't make a buck in those trade-exposed industries, and we will continue to see job losses occur if we don't actually for once realise as a country that the dollar sitting where it's at is not a positive thing and we have to take action.
But why take this action now, given that when the RBA meets at the beginning of next month, the economists are tipping that they will in fact cut rates based on inflation figures that are due out later this month? Well,
what we're calling for today is a whole range of measures. The RBA issue is the one that the ABC's decided to latch onto and is turning into a big story. There's a whole range of issues that we're talking about.
It's unusual for a senior public figure like yourself to so stringently attack the RBA. Well, so you're criticising the economic advice. We assume the RBA board, Glenn Stevens, relies on the best economic brains in Australia to make their monetary policy decisions. You're saying they've got it wrong.
And look, I respect Glenn Stevens. I met with Glenn Stevens a couple of weeks ago to talk about these issues, and I think that the RBA governors are all very learned and intelligent people, but they're not infallible either. And there seems to be this culture in this country that somehow we can't question or criticise decisions that the RBA makes, like they're sacrosanct or something. They're not. They do get it wrong sometimes, and at the moment they are getting it wrong consistently.
In fact, you want to change the charter for the RBA. How so?
Well, I haven't said we should change it. I said we should talk about the charter, and we should look at the fact that the charter at the moment is so prescriptive around the issue of inflation, which of course is very important, and we don't want to see inflation get out of control. But we should also look at the impact that the RBA can have on the dollar, and we should consider at least options of changing the charter to ensure that we look at issues like currency. Other jurisdictions around the world that are dealing with this issue have done similar things. Switzerland has done a similar thing in terms of capping the Swiss francs because they had a similar issue with the appreciation of their currency. I think we as a nation first have to accept that the dollar sitting as high as it is and where it is right now is not a good thing for our country. No one benefits from the dollar sitting where it's at the moment. And certainly our value-adding industries outside of the resources sector can't make a buck while the dollar sits as high as it is. And that's why we as a nation should have an open and frank conversation about what can be done as we continue to suffer the side effects of the mining boom to save our value-adding industries, which most Australians work in.
Why not also push the government for more assistance, like what we've seen to the car manufacturing industry?
Well, in terms of steel, the government did put together a very generous package last year, the Steel Industry Transformation Fund, which provided $300 million to the Australian steel industry. It's very generous and we appreciate it sincerely. But that doesn't solve the macroeconomic conditions which is making it so hard for manufacturers in this country and now for tourism and for higher education as well at the moment. That is the dollar. And frankly, we don't seem to be putting enough attention on the dollar as we should. And it's no matter what you tinker with on the edges, you can look at a whole range of taxes, you can look at a whole range of economic levers and policies. At the end of the day, the real issue affecting our economy at the moment is the dollar, and we need some action, or at least discussions, about what action can take place around this currency.
As you know, the level of the cash rate is but one determining factor as to where the dollar is. No government, no central bank can truly determine whether the dollar goes up or the dollar comes down.
No, that's right, but a central bank can put downwards pressure on a dollar. I mean, the government can do other very important initiatives like pressuring China to give the yuan a real value, and the depreciation, the artificial depreciation of the yuan is a real issue that has an adverse impact on the value of the Australian dollar. That's an issue that the government can take up. But ultimately, there's only one arm of government in this country at the moment which can take strong action on the dollar, and that is the Reserve Bank. If
you're concerned about the future of the steel industry, how do you feel about the potential dampening effects of the surplus? If the government moves the surplus, it pulls so much demand out of the economy, a 2.6% cut in GDP, economic activity. Surely that's not going to be great for any manufacturing industry.
Well, actually, but going to surplus actually does put downward pressure on interest rates as well. I mean, we seem to forget that in the current debate about surplus.
It also has other dampening economic effects.
If we continue to run large budget deficits, then you'll have higher interest rates. Just as a simple matter of fact, John Howard used to tell us that on a regular basis. And we know that if we return to surplus, and that will put downward pressure on interest rates, which has a positive impact on putting downward pressure on the dollar. It also means that small businesses and SMEs and households will have more cash available to be able to spend in their economy if they're not going into interest payments.
And just quickly, just to talk about the image of unions at the moment based on all the deepening divisions within the HSU and reports this morning about even more unaccounted for spending on credit cards. How damaging is this for the union movement?
Oh, it's a real body blow. It's frankly a pretty depressing time to be a union official when you wake up every day and you see the actions of a few in a relatively small union are damaging the reputations of what I think is a calibre, high-class calibre of people who work every day as union officials. I think it's an honour to be a representative of working people, and there are 2 million working Australians across this country who are members of trade unions. 77,000 of those people are in the Health Services Union. And unfortunately, the actions of a few within the HSU have damaged the reputations of the rest of us. And I wish that the HSU could just once and for all sort their stuff out so the rest of us can get on with our job, which we do every day, of representing working people.
Paul House, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.